Hello, I'm Aaron, the Dungeon Master Dad, and this is episode 9 of The Adventures of Logan and Reagan in the Temple of Elemental Evil. And at this point, we have Logan, Reagan, and their friends Shrek, Monty, Morgan, Bingo, Otis, Elmo, Yaday, and Murfles, and they have infiltrated all four of the elemental sub-temples of the Temple of Elemental Evil. Now at this point they are ready to start dismantling these temples. Somewhere around this time, Elmo is removed from the party. The fact is that at some point in the future, we will be playing Return to Temple of Elemental Evil, and I have stat blocks for certain NPCs in that adventure. Elmo, in that adventure, is a 6th level character, and by about this time, Elmo had reached 6th level. I can't have him gain another level if he's going to be still 6th level 10 years from now, 15 years from now, however long it's going to be. So I had to come up with an excuse why Elmo would leave the party. And the answer to that is that his father dies, and Otis's father as well, as they are brothers. And upon receiving word in between one of the forays into the temple that their father has died, the people in charge of the city of Hamlet, Bernie Rufus, and the other city elders, Jaru, Ashstaff, and so forth, they asked Elmo, who has now been revealed to not be a drunk. He is in fact an eyelash. Anyway, he is a powerful character and a responsible character, and they have requested that Elmo will be the new constable of the city, which was their father's job before. So Elmo has to leave the party because of his responsibilities to the town of Hamlet. So no longer is he a member of the party. So at this point, the rest of the characters are going to start assaulting the various elemental temples. So Logan and Reagan also have reached 6th level. Most of the other characters, with the exceptions of Yaday and Otis, who are higher level, are 5th. Characters put their brown robes on and make their way down into the white areas of level 2. They're going to attack the air temple, and the plan is to make it look like it was minions of the earth temple who did it, in case they're observed by anyone who survives their assault. So they begin infiltrating the areas of the air temple in their brown robes, which of course is going to immediately start a fight with the guards of the air temple. This is going to mostly consist of bugbears, about double the number of bugbears that there were before, because one of the things that they did previously was they got the bugbears from the water temple to join the air temple. And in this battle with a bunch of bugbears, a couple of gnolls, and some goblins, and the single cleric of the air temple, Kelno, a 5th level cleric. So about the same level of power as Lareth, who they defeated previously, except they now are much more powerful than they were. Now, at this time, let me explain one of the things that I do as DM in an adventure such as this. When I played this adventure back in high school, more than 20 years ago, in this area of the dungeon, we would have a lot of rooms we would go in and fight 6 bugbears in this room. Then you go in the next room, there's 4 more bugbears. You go to another room, in this room, there's 5 bugbears. It got kind of tedious. And boring is one thing that I do not want in this adventure. So what I do is whenever characters go into a room and are fighting monsters in that room, and then there's an adjacent room with more monsters in it who would hear the fighting in this first room, I have them charge in and join the fight after 1 round. And after an additional round, if there was another room beyond that, those will come in. So they're basically going to have 1 fight with all of the minions of the air temple because they're all going to respond to the alarm of the battle that occurs. This makes for some bigger and more difficult fights, but less of them, and it doesn't get boring. And I will admit that I had some misgivings about it, that by combining battles, potential battles in this way, that I may create a situation in which the party gets in over their heads. Fortunately, it all worked out. That did not happen. And so, again, we had all of the battles, but lumped together into less number of larger battles. So, in this fight against the minions of the air temple, they fought a total of 21 bugbears, 2 gnolls, 4 goblins, and Kelno, the cleric of the air temple. Now, by this time, being 6th level, as a sorceress, Reagan was throwing around 6 die fireballs, which was allowing her to take out large swaths of bugbears in 1 round. She would cast a fireball. Every bugbear in the area of effect who failed saving throw went down. Everyone who succeeded had only a couple of hit points left. So we the party now has the proper artillery in the form of Reagan to deal with a battle such as this. Okay, so once Kelno and his guards were slain, which thanks to Reagan and thanks to Logan's prowess with the bow, and thanks very much to Otis and his power with his sword, once they were slain, the party went into the actual shrine of the air temple to deal with it. So in that shrine there was an altar with some crystal knife, crystal decanters, various crystal things, and there were 2 large crystal braziers in this room, the air shrine. As soon as they touched the altar, that set off a glyph of warding, which caused a whirlwind to issue forth from the altar and hit all the characters for 12 points of damage. And it also sounded an alarm. And the alarm brought forth the guardian of the air temple. Now, the guardian was a creature called a drelb. And I looked it up, and for the life of me, I could not find any stats for a creature called a drelb in 3rd edition D&D. But from the 1st edition stat block that I had in the adventure, I had a sense of what it was. A incorporeal, invisible creature that damaged with cold touch. And it seemed to me that this was very similar in many ways to a wraith. So what I did was I used the stats of a wraith for this creature, and I made a couple of modifications. So first off, it's an elemental, it's not an undead, so it cannot be turned. Secondly, its chill touch is not a life energy drain, it is cold damage. So protection from cold will protect against the creature, against damage from the creature. Third, the creature is a creature of air and cold subtypes, so it has those stats. So, for example, fire would do extra damage to it, and so forth. So the party fought this creature. The fact that it was incorporeal makes it so that you have a penalties to hit it, and if you do hit, there's still like a 50-50 chance of your weapon just passing through. Weapon must be enchanted, and even if you hit, or even a spell from a corporeal source that hits it has a 50% chance to just be out of phase and do no damage. Despite this, they defeat this creature, the Drobe, and now the temple is unguarded. They go to cast down these crystal braziers, and as soon as they touch them, they begin to pour forth toxic smoke. So contact with this toxic smoke is doing damage. So Otis, because he has 100 hit points, he sends the rest of the party out of the room, figuring that he can deal with it for a lot longer than anybody else. He uses his sword to cut chains to bring the braziers. They were hooked up to the ceiling. He brings them down to the floor, and ultimately he just bashes them to pieces and destroys them, which ultimately was a tragic way to deal with them because they were worth 10,000 gold pieces each intact, and if you had just taken them out of the room, that would cause them to stop issuing forth smoke, but they had no way of knowing that. So now one thing that people might have thought to try to do to them would be to pour holy water on them. It's a good thing they didn't try that, because pouring holy water on them would summon a type of demon called a Vrock, which the party was not powerful enough to deal with at this time. Fortunately, they either didn't think of it or they didn't have any holy water. Never occurred to them, so they didn't try that. Okay, with the destruction of the braziers and the death of Kelno and all of his guards, the power of the air temple was completely broken, and so there are only 3 elemental sub-temples left, and the the fire temple and the water temple both think that the air temple was brought down by the earth temple. Next on the party's hit list will be the fire temple, and going after the fire temple I will talk about next week. And until then, remember, don't kill your kids' characters. That's what the NPCs are for.